Hey everyone, it's Caito, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. So we are going to be doing a Let's Play today, but I actually have a topic that I want to talk about while I'm here on my no time traveling island doing some dailies. So that's what we're going to be doing, and the topic of discussion today is actually why I think we're going to be getting an Animal Crossing game sooner than everyone thinks. So before I get too much into it, obviously, this is all pure speculation. I know nothing. I'm just talking about why I think this could be coming in the next year or two. So that's what we're going to discuss. I would love to know your opinions down in the comments as always. But let's go ahead and get right into this. I don't think this is news to anyone that Animal Crossing New Horizons has brought so many new players to the franchise. Selling over 37 million copies worldwide, it is now the second best selling Switch game of all time, behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And New Horizons has sold more copies than all of the other Animal Crossing games combined. And they did that within the first 6 weeks of its release. For a little more comparison, Animal Crossing New Leaf, which is the second most popular Animal Crossing game, which came out on the DS, it sold 12.9 million copies. So this game has attracted a lot of people. Now, obviously, I think there are a lot of contributing factors to this. I think the Switch is a great selling system. I think the worldwide issues that were going on at the time of this release contributed significantly to the great sales of New Horizons. But all of that aside, there are so many new people playing this game, and obviously, I think Nintendo is fully aware of that. I've seen so many opinions on when people think the next game is coming out. Why did they tell us that they weren't going to do any more updates? Everyone is entitled to any and all of the opinions that they have about this, but I'm just going to be telling you what I think and why I disagree with some of the different opinions that I've seen. I've seen a handful of people saying that there won't be another Animal Crossing game, and to me, this just isn't even fathomable. It's not on my radar at all. 100%. In my eyes, there will be another Animal Crossing game. They would be foolish not to capitalize on this. Animal Crossing is such a moneymaker for them, and I honestly think the success of New Horizons is going to contribute to how they market the next Animal Crossing game. I think New Horizons had them testing the waters a little bit, especially with things like the paid DLC that we saw with Happy Home Paradise. I think they wanted to see how Animal Crossing fans would respond to that, and I think based on our response, they will be doing more paid DLC for future games. I also think the next installment of Animal Crossing will have a lot longer of a support cycle than previous games. New Horizons, we saw about 2 years worth of support, and I think a lot of that is because they didn't anticipate the success of this game. And I think in their minds, they already had a set amount of support, a set amount of resources that they wanted to contribute to this project as a whole. And I think they needed to go ahead and move those resources over to the next game. Another reason I think this is going to come sooner rather than later is because I think they need to really pounce on this opportunity of everyone being super excited about Animal Crossing. I think if they wait too long, they will lose a lot of people in the process. I do think they've lost some people. I think some people got upset that they weren't going to be doing any more updates for the current game. But I think as a general whole, everyone still sees Animal Crossing as a positive light. And I think they need to keep it that way. I think they need to keep some momentum going, even if that means just showing a little teaser, a little sliver of the next Animal Crossing game. I think that would be enough to keep the hype alive. Now, I've been talking so far just about pure speculation. Let's go ahead, let's bring some dates to the table, because I think the dates are important. Now, I'm going to be talking specifically about United States releases, but if you want the information about any other countries, anything else, I will have the article, the resource that I used, linked down in the description. So, first things first, the original Animal Crossing game came out on the GameCube September 16th, 2002, 20 years ago. Moving right along, Animal Crossing Wild World, the second installment of Animal Crossing, came out on the Nintendo DS December 5th, 2005. So, important thing to note here, it was 3 years between the release of the initial Animal Crossing game and the following one. Another interesting thing to note is they went from a release on a home console to a release on a handheld console, so that's just something to keep in mind. And then we had Animal Crossing City Folk, which came out on the Wii. This released on November 16th, 2008, which was 3 years later after the DS release. This time, we're switching back to a home console from a handheld console. Then we're going to make that switch again, and they're going to release Animal Crossing New Leaf on the 3DS. This released on June 9th, 2013. And there was a 5-year gap between the release of the Wii version and the 3DS version. So far, we've only been talking about mainline games, but I do think it's important to point out that between the release of New Leaf and New Horizons, there were 3 kind of spin-off things that they released. So they released Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer on the 3DS. That came out on September 25th, 2015. Then they released Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival on the Wii U, which came out November 13th, 2015. And they had Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which is a mobile game, which came out November 22nd, 2017. Obviously, those aren't mainline games, but I do want to make sure to point them out because it kind of alleviates some of that feeling of the drought between 2013 and the release of New Horizons in 2020. So that does bring me to New Horizons, which we all know released in March 20 of 2020, making it a 7-year difference from the release of New Leaf to New Horizons, which makes it the biggest gap between releases of the mainline games in the franchise. Now, all of that said, we've got all of the dates here in front of us, the biggest gap being a 7-year gap, but I think there's something important to point out here, because a lot of people forget about the big elephant in the room that happened between 2013 and 2020, and that is the Wii U. If you don't know, the Wii U was the home console that Nintendo released after the Wii, and it was an absolute failure of a system. Obviously, there are a bunch of people who love the Wii U, they stand by it, but overall, it was a disaster for Nintendo. It didn't sell well, it was not popular, and I do think that's important to point out because I do think it contributed to lengthening the gap between the games, and I think they just decided, hey, let's put out something with the Animal Crossing name on it, we'll do a little spin-off thing, but we're not going to waste our time doing a mainline game on a console that is failing. Instead, let's pool our resources, let's go ahead and start working on something for the next system, which will hopefully be more of a success. So, taking all of that into account, we've got the dates, we've got all my reasoning for why I think they need to maintain the Animal Crossing hype, but we've got one more thing that I think is a factor in this, and that is the next console that's going to come after the Switch, whether that is a Switch 2 or a Switch Pro. Whatever it is, I do believe they're going to stick with the Switch style, maybe just try to upgrade it a little bit for the next system. But the Switch has been out for 5 years at this point. I feel like it's nearing the end of its life cycle. I think they're going to try to push it along probably 2 more years. And I think that next Animal Crossing game is going to come out very early in the life cycle of the next console. So all of this to say, my prediction for the next console and the next Animal Crossing game, it's all happening in 2024. That's what I think. I think it'll be summer of 2024, but I think we'll know more information by early next year. 2023, I think they'll start to tease it and kind of try to draw those people back in that they've lost along the way, try to regenerate some hype about Animal Crossing as a franchise. That's my opinion on all of this. I would love to know what you think down in the comments. When do you think we're going to see the next mainline Animal Crossing game? because there's always a chance that we could get a few spin-offs along the way. But be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I hope y'all enjoyed this video today. If you did, I'd appreciate if you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!